Go back to one of our top stories. It's been almost a week after the deadly dam burst in Jagersfontein. Residents are picking up the pieces, actually. But the scale of the devastation is palpable. The Portfolio Committee on Mineral Resources spent 3 days in Jagersfontein after the dam collapses, found out exactly what they found. Committee Chair Sahlulele Luzipo joins us for this conversation. Sahlulele, thank you so much for your time this morning. Let's have a conversation about exactly what you discovered as the Portfolio Committee on Mineral Resources and Energy, because we're also hearing reports that those that were working in the mines were saying, and they were warning the mining bosses, that this was bound to happen. But what has been your investigation thus far?
Look, thank you very much, Faith, and to the viewers. The first thing we must say is that we must extend our word of condolences to the families that have lost their loved ones. And hopefully with the rescue mission that is taking place, that they will be able to find those that have not been accounted for, and wish a speedy recovery for those that have been injured and in hospital. Yes, the situation is quite a stressful one in Jagersfontein. One of the things that we have discovered is that first, we have a company that has got no relationship either with the community or the structures of government. For instance, the local municipalities said that they've got no relationship at all with the mining companies. The second thing that I think is important is the fact that the point that you have raised is that comes to issues of labor relations, that this is one of the worst institutions where labor relations is not an issue, that you would say there is recognition that workers have got rights, including in terms of the time offs, or let's call it the benefits that they are supposed to accrue, and quite a number of many other issues. And it's true that workers say that at around about 2 o'clock in the morning, they did inform their bosses, especially the mine shaft foreman, and that the wall was cracking. And again, at around about 4 or so, again that was ignored until the incident took place. And that is what is worrisome. One of the things that I think is important to raise is that there is a need for an urgent intervention as far as issues of counseling are concerned, because you've got a young man who says, I saw my mother being swept away with my own eyes. And that is quite a traumatic experience. And we think that government must quickly intervene as far as issues at this stage of counseling is concerned. So that is generally one of the things. Lastly, I think one of the most important things is that from our own point of view is that with those urgent intervention, there is a need now to fast-track the legislation that deals with the issue of the mine dams from a mineral resources point of view.
Yeah. You know, as you're mentioning all of this, and oftentimes what ends up happening is that these mining companies and mining bosses don't have a name, they don't have a face. But the people and the victims who get affected have got names, they've got faces, and actually have got a history. Just help us understand here, Sahlulele, in terms of the mine bosses that are involved. Is it indeed Star Gems Group, which will be then a Dubai-based diamond merchant? They were said to be probing this, and you're saying that they don't even have a relationship with the community at large, with the environment. So they are clearly a very removed institution. And I mean, if we even track the history of Jagersfontein, it even dates back to De Beers, for example, which ceased operations in 1971. And then there was another company that bought it over in 2010. I believe that Star Gems actually took over in about April 2022. Is that who is at fault here? Is that who the accountability must go to? Because there's also an issue of a civil lawsuit that is being investigated at the moment. But as I said, sometimes when it comes to these kinds of incidences, the victims get given a face, but the guys that are supposed to be held accountable remain in the dark. So Star Gems Group, can we actually confirm that these are the guys that are responsible for this kind of conundrum?
Look, I think the point you are raising is very critical. We can't just blame, yes, that they should be the ones that are taking the blame, Jagersfontein Development Trust. But let's go back. 1971 or so, De Beers stopped the mining. Then fast-tracked to 2005 or so, they then tried to sell to activate the prospecting right. In that process, then they go to the Department of Mineral Resources. At that time, it was the old, what we call old order right. They were working according to the Minerals Act. And then 2002, 2004, you would have had then 2004 as promulgated, you would have had the MPRDA. What they did then, they went to court and challenged the authority of the Department of Mineral Resources over mine dams. And the court unfortunately ruled in favor of the BS and the Tower. In the process, then Ottawa would have then assumed the mining, the water, what we would say on our side is a mining right. So you can't say DPS is not accountable, because instead of the state issuing the mining right, it would have been DPS who would have issued the mining right to another company or ceded the right to another company. And equally, that company now would have ceded that right to the current company. So all three of them must take liability. That is the view that I think we hold from a committee point of view, that it is not only an individual, a current company. All of them, they are simultaneously. You would acknowledge the fact that had that court ruled in favor of the DMRE, then it would have meant that the DMRE is the negligent institution when it would have issued the right, because a mining right goes with conditions. And in this case, there are no conditions. But I think lastly, we must say this thing. It is worrisome that the company in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, was its water use license was reviewed. The question, therefore, that now becomes a problem, and we think our sister portfolio committee will have to deal with that, is who then allowed them to resume operations on the basis of the water use license. Because in our view, that if you don't comply, the review would then say you have to comply. If until such time that you complied, we will then review our decision to suspend the operations. In this case, we couldn't get anything that says the operation will resume because they were able to be compliant with what would have been the reason for the suspension of operations.
Yeah, so clearly here, as the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Mineral Resources and Energy, it's De Beers. It's De Beers ceding to Star Gems. We've also got the likes of Raynet, who did not respond also to requests and commentary as well. What exactly concerns us now is how do we prevent the situation from happening again? We see that workers themselves were saying, guys, this dam right now is a ticking time. The workers were saying, we've been warning the mining bosses, we've been warning this company that this was going to happen, and they did not heed our call. Then what do we do to make sure that we don't have another situation where we have to speak about people that are missing, right? Parents that are missing, loss of lives, loss of assets, and the rebuilding? Because it's unfortunate, Salulele, that even though the people are grieving right now, those mining bosses have got options. They could be wherever it is right now, whatever part of the world, that's where they could be right now, completely removed from the situation, because they probably don't even stay in that environment. So how do we prevent this conundrum from happening again?
You are absolutely correct. In fact, let's take it further, that you've got people that when this incident happened, the company had made an offer of 20 million rands, and we're saying there's a joke. You can't say. If you look at the massive damage that had happened there, 20 million rands is nothing. You can't put that offer at all. And we think that is one thing that we have said, that whatever intervention that the state makes, they must then be able to recoup the cost of that from the company. And that is why we said, regardless of how they do it, it's a different matter. But in principle, we have to support the class action that is being considered by the community. With regards to what do we do from now going forward, I think from our own committee point of view, it is fortunate that when this thing happened, we are already sitting with the legislation that seeks to amend what the court had said. Remember, the court ruling did not only end by saying the Department of Mineral Resources and energy has got no jurisdiction over this. It then said the department must then start to work on a legislation that will then have regulations with regard as mine dam are concerned. And that is what I think from our own point of view as a committee, we now need to fast track that legislation so that it can talk to the current crisis that we are having.
Yeah, as I said, it's quite devastating to know exactly what citizens of this country have to go through at the hands of those that have got options in this country. But we'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much for your time. Satlulela Luzipo is the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Mineral Resources and Energy.